Hello, everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss the steps in conducting a literature review and how to search for literature. Now, if you remember in previous videos, we discussed the importance of the literature review, the purpose of it, and also some very general structures for your literature review. And we also talked about how important it is to come up with a made literature review and its relevance to the overall paper. Now, conducting a literature review involves multiple steps, and each of these steps is critical to ensure a thorough and insightful literature review that would be truly helpful for your paper. So, before we move on, let's first define the literature review. What is a literature review? It is a comprehensive synthesis of previous research. Now, take note, we said synthesis and not summary. There is a difference in the act of synthesizing than summarizing, right? So, according to the Writing Center at UNC, the literature review should identify trends, debates, and gaps in the research, and it should also lay the foundation for your own study by showing where your work fits into the larger academic conversation. Now, next to that, we move on to identifying the key words. Now, when you are first starting out and researching about your topic, if it's, for example, online or if you have to go to the library, it is so crucial that you know the correct keywords to use because keywords will direct your research and they will impact the quality of the results, right? So if you're using the wrong keywords, then that will impact the quality of the search results that you get online, for example. Or if you're using keywords that are not the correct terms being used by other researches published in that particular area of interest, then that would also impact the quality of your search results. So it is important that you use relevant keywords to search for literature. Purdue OWL recommends refining your search terms to include variations and synonyms and also to ensure a broader range of studies. Now, I personally would recommend that you probably read up on a article or two that is closely related to the area of research that you would like to focus on and then take note of all the different terms that they have put in their papers and then use these terms in your search queries. Okay, so this would greatly help because it would at least ensure to some degree that you are going to have search results that are relevant to your query and they are the exact researches that you're actually looking for. So again, you may want to take a look at some of the keywords that are being used by other researchers, especially if you are a new researcher or if you're a new researcher in that particular area or field of study. So, first get a good understanding of the different terms that are being used by other researchers, and then you can go ahead and use those in your search queries. Next is to use these keywords and search the literature. So you can use databases like, for example, Google Scholar, which is probably the most popular go to site for researchers, or you can look at other databases as well, such as JSTOR, PubMed, and ProQuest. They can help you find journal articles, books, and dissertations that are related to your topic. A well conducted search ensures that your review includes the most relevant and recent studies. So you are to look at studies that have been conducted before, years, decades before, and then also do focus as well and review the studies that have been conducted as recently as just a few months, or they've been published within the few months or within the last few weeks. So the idea here is you do want to conduct a thorough search and you do want to include as many possible articles as you know as you can, including the ones that have been published before and the newly published ones, just to make sure that you're getting a good understanding of the research field and you are aware of what different perspectives exist in that particular area of study. After you have searched the literature and you've probably identified already the different articles that you would like to read, synthesize, and include in your literature review, please make sure that you evaluate the sources. So, what do we mean by evaluating the sources? We're talking here about critically assessing the quality of the source you find. So, not all sources should be immediately used. You need to check what kind of source is this? Is this a credible source? Is this a published study? Is this a peer-reviewed published study? Is this a credible journal? Or is this a blog post? Is it a news article? So, not all sources are actually on the same level when it comes to credibility. So, consider the rigor of the study, the credibility of the publication, and the relevance to your topic. So, typically, researchers would go for the top tier journals. Okay, because in these top tier journals, you would be able to get access to articles that have been published following a very rigorous peer review, meaning it is something that is highly credible and that you can, um, you can basically build your research on with much trust. And then after that, once you have evaluated the sources and you have identified which sources or which articles you would like to go ahead and include in your literature review, you move on now to summarizing the literature. So write concise summaries for each source, and these summaries are intended to capture the key findings, the research methods, and the limitations. So, why do we do this? Because it helps you to stay organized and it ensures that you don't overlook important details. So, one way for you to do that is to perhaps come up with a literature matrix, or you can use any one of these. Um, Tools that are available online that can help you build a literature matrix. So, what is a literature matrix? It's basically a matrix that has several columns that allow you to, after reading a particular article, input the important information by section in that paper in these different columns. So I tell you, it helps you so greatly, especially when you begin writing your paper and you remember a certain thought that you cannot pinpoint exactly where you got this thought. The matrix will greatly help you because you can immediately identify it was that study, it was these authors who proposed this statement. The other, of course, obvious reason why you would want to work with a literature matrix is because it also helps you keep everything, all the important things that you need to remember, into one document as opposed to having it all scattered across different articles in different documents. So it's a good way to just summarize, and from there, you can build on your thoughts and synthesize. And lastly, organize the literature. So structure the review thematically or conceptually. According to Swales and Feek in 2004, organizing the literature in a logical way helps readers follow your argument and understand how your study contributes to the field. It's so important that you present your arguments, your statements in a logical manner because that also facilitates for easy understanding at the part of the reader. Now, searching for literature is obviously a critical step in writing your literature review because you wouldn't be able to write a literature review without it. And so, to conduct an effective search, you need to use a variety of academic databases, like I mentioned, and focus on the high quality peer reviewed sources. Again, not any source, not any output or article can be used. Do please take note of this. Here's a more detailed look at some of the most widely used computer databases for academic research. Number one is Google Scholar, like I said, a free database that indexes a wide range of academic papers, books, and conference proceedings across various disciplines. And it's a great way for researchers to start, especially if they're working on an interdisciplinary research. The next one is JSTOR, a vast digital library that includes scholarly journals, books, and primary sources in the fields of humanity, social sciences, and the natural sciences. And then we have PubMed. So, this is a resource that specializes in health and life sciences, and it's more ideal and typically used by researchers in the field of biomedicine, okay, or basically medicine for biomedical research. Next, ProQuest, and this is a comprehensive database that provides access to dissertations, thesis, and a variety of academic articles across many fields. We also have the ERIC, an education specific database with a vast collection of journal articles, reports, and other resources on educational practices. So this one is really specific for education. And of course, we have the Scopus, which is one of the largest abstract and citation databases, and it covers a broad spectrum of disciplines. It's also a great source for you to review articles and basically get outputs that are published in Scopus journals. And of course, as we know, that they're highly credible. And we have the Psych Info, which is managed by the American Psychological Association. It offers an extensive collection of literature on psychology and related fields. According to the MIT libraries, it is recommended that you use a combination of these databases to ensure that you have a good hold and a comprehensive view of the literature in your area of interest. So, when conducting a literature review, you are also expected to include different types of sources. So, you don't have to just stick only with articles. You can include books that are written by authors who are deemed to be authorities basically in their fields. You can also include news articles, although these ones don't really hold the same level of credibility as journal articles that have been published in reputable journals. So, a strong review will draw on theoretical literature, and this one explores frameworks, models, and concepts related to your topic. That's for literature, theoretical literature. And then we have empirical studies. This one, it presents data and findings from experiments or observations. And lastly, methodological literature. This one focuses on the tools and techniques used in research, and they can help you justify your own methodological choices. So, again, the types of literature include theoretical, the one pertaining to the theoretical framework that you are going to be using and the resulting conceptual framework. Then we have empirical studies, and this one basically reports on the data and findings of previous researches. And last one is the methodological review or the methodological literature, and this one justifies your methodological choices. So, when evaluating your resources, the top priority is given to high quality peer reviewed sources, such as journal articles and books that are published by reputable academic presses. Though I must add that journal articles tend to be more updated, especially those that have been published in within the year or so. They tend to be more updated than books. Books tend to have a wider time period in between editions. So, they may skip on some recent events, for example. They may not be discussing them or they may not be too updated when it comes to the latest in the field. And peer reviewed articles are more credible, okay, because they have undergone a rigorous evaluation process by other experts in the field in comparison to books. So when you choose your resources, right, go for sources that are number one journal articles. A bulk of your sources should be um, journal articles. And then next to that, you can get insights from books that are published also by reputable academic presses. And then other than that, below that, you can have, for example, conference proceedings, you can have thesis and dissertations, you can have, well, you can cite from those, but you should not overdo it as well. You can cite from news articles, um, presumably also those from reputable news outlets. As Cornell University Library recommends, you should evaluate each source for the credibility of its authors, the quality of its methodology, and the frequency with which it has been cited. And again, the literature matrix can help you in achieving that. It can give you an idea on how this study has been done. And from there, you should at least be able to tell, okay, this is a good study. This is something that we can cite, or this one is not. It's best to just keep it out. Highly cited articles in prestigious journals often carry more weight in academic discussions. So do keep in mind to look for those as well and to read them and include them in your citations. And then you can also work with a literature map. Not all templates or not all universities do require a literature map, and not all academic advisors do require them, but they can also be a great helpful tool. So if you would like to use them, it would greatly assist you in visually seeing how your research connects with the other researchers in the field, and how the different concepts are also interrelated. So, what is a literature map? It's a visual representation of the connections between different studies. So, creating a literature map helps you see the relationships between various sources, and it identifies areas where your research can contribute. So, it's a graphical presentation for those who would probably have a difficult time trying to imagine all the concepts and all the interrelationships that you have discussed in your literature review, because not everyone is blessed with that kind of imagination. You may find it helpful to include a literature map, especially if you have a lot of concepts discussed. So, literature map helps you to immediately see it with your own eyes how these different studies and concepts are related. To create a literature map, you should first identify themes. So, group the studies by common themes or topics, and then move on to mapping relationships between these different studies. So, show us how these studies relate to one another and to your research question. And lastly, it would also be very beneficial if you can highlight the gaps in literature map, and basically use the map to pinpoint where the gaps in the literature exist and how your research is going to address it. And lastly, every field and sometimes different journals as well require a specific style manual. For our university and in most other business research related studies, we do recommend the use of the APA, or the American Psychological Association style, the seventh edition, which is the most recent one. Following a style manual is important for formatting your literature review correctly. Most commonly, the APA, which what I mentioned a while ago, is used for social science research. Properly formatted citations not only enhance the professionalism of your paper, but also make it easier for readers to locate the sources you have referenced. So you can refer to tools like the Purdue OWL, because it offers comprehensive guide for the APA style and can help you format your paper according to academic standards. I would also recommend that you do check out the APA website, or if you can, you may want to purchase the APA book that very extensively discusses its most recent style, which is the seventh edition.